ॐ शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करभावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजाननपद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वति नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्जसम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करश्रजं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. वागर्ताविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्त प्रतिपत्तये जगदः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। श्रीपार्वती परमेश्वराभ्यां नमः। कोमलं पूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन् हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरनभ्यर्थितानपि अर्थान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी ध्रुवमभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयम्। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशीविभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलाधरोष्णात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടും ഇറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. ഏതീനു മന്യനെ കുമ്പീടേണ്ട തോറും രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കുന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Okay, good evening everyone. Happy New Year to everyone. Thanks for adjusting the time. All right. So, Nikki, the Dasakam 86 that we're going to do is a pretty long, a lot of content. So we can skip the review today. So we'll finish off 85. So where did we stop? I remember I wrote it down that we stopped at stanza 7, but I remember saying the meaning of Shishupala getting killed.
I think we finished 8, I think.
8, okay. Yeah, I think, and I said the meaning for 9 because it was connected, but I think we haven't done stanza 9. Okay. All right. All right. Since it's a small group, who wants to go the first two? Who wants to be students for the first half? Okay.
I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be Shalila. Who else wants to be student?
Just before review, I cannot do that.
We are not.
I'm sorry, but
No, we are not doing the review. We just directly jump into the Dashakam. So,
Yeah, I can read.
okay. Okay. So, Jyoti ji, you and Shailaja and Aisha, then we can be student. Okay. First half. Okay. Stanza 9. Nivarya nijapakshgan abhimukasya vidveshinah. Sorry, let's look at the tune. Suddenly we started. Yeah. Nivarya nijapakshgan abhimukasya vidveshinah. Tvameva jahrishe shiro danujadharina swarina. Janustritaya labdhaya satata chintaya shuddhadihi. Tvaya saparamekatam adrita yoginam durlabham. Like we saw last time, I think this is getting rid of Shishupala at this case, right? And we saw how Shishupala had this boon that, he could curse Krishna or say bad things to Krishna 100 times in a row in a single instance. Until then, Krishna will not do anything. But finally, this time that came to an end, and Shishupala wasn't gotten rid of. The Jaya Vijaya who were born the first time as Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, second time as Ravana, Kumbhakarna, that got done, and now Jaya is getting liberated as Shishupala, which is very difficult even for the greatest of yogis to get liberated. But Vijaya got liberated in the 3 attempts. Next Dashakam Dantavaktra will also get liberated. So Nivarya Nija Pakshagan, breaking at that na, Pakshagan, Abhimukasya Bidveshinaha, put a Visargan comma. Next line, the is goes away. Tvameva Jahrishe Shiro Danuja Darina Swarina Janus Tritaya Labdhaya Satata Chintaya Shuddhadihi. Put a Visargan comma, Shuddhadihi. Next line, that is goes away. Tvaya sa param ekatam im, breaking at the im, param ekatam adhrita yoginam durlabham. Nivarya nijapakshagan abhimukasya vidveshinah tvameva jahrishe shiro danujadarina swarina janustritaya labdhaya satata chintaya shuddhadihi tvaya saparamekatam adrita yoginam durlabham.
Rajeshi, 1 second.
Yeah.
Paramekadamma, Paramekadama.
Paramekatam a sound.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Jyoti ji or Shailaja, who's going first?
okay. You want me to do that? I can do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
निवार्य निज पक्षगान अभिमुखस्य विद्वेषिणः त्वमेव जहृषे शिरोदनुजदारिणा स्वारिणा त्रितयलब्धया सततचिन्तया शुद्धधीः त्वया स परमेकताम् अधृतयोगिनां दुर्लभाम् निवार्य निज पक्षगान अभिमुखस्य विद्वेषिणः त्वमेव जहृषे शिरोदनुजदारिणा स्वारिणा जनुस्त्रितयलब्धया सततचिन्तया शुद्धधीः त्वया स परमेकताम् अधृतयोगिनां दुर्लभाम्
निवार्य निजपक्षगानभिमुखस्य विद्वेषिणः त्वमेव जहृषे शिरोदनुजदारिणा स्वारिणा जनुस्त्रितयलब्धया सततचिन्तया शुद्धधीः त्वया स परमेकतामधृतयोगिनां दुर्लभाम् निवार्य निजपक्षगानभिमुखस्य विद्वेषिणः त्वमेव जहृषे शिरोदनुजदारिणा स्वारिणा जनुस्त्रितयलब्धया सततचिन्तया शुद्धधीः त्वया स परमेकतामधृतयोगिनां दुर्लभाम्.
That's it. ततः सुमहिते त्वया क्रतुवरे निरूढे जनो ययौ जयति धर्मजो जयति कृष्ण इत्यालपन् खलस्तु सुयोधनो दुतमना सपत्नश्रिया मयार्पितसभामुखे स्थलजलभ्रमादभ्रमीत्. So if you remember this, all this was happening during the Rajasuya Yajna that Yudhishthira was doing, right? So he had gotten a portion of Indra, or he had gotten a portion of the kingdom in Indraprastha, and then he was doing the Rajasuya Yajna to establish his dominance, right? So that was when they used that opportunity to get rid of Jarasandha and all of this. So anyway, the Rajasuya Yajna is then getting completed, Krishna, with your blessings, and everybody is praising Yudhishthira and Krishna, right, for their greatness. Now, this becomes the trigger for the Mahabharata war, which is going to happen in Dashakam, next to Dashakam. So here, when this was happening, the Kauravas, because everybody was invited, Duryodhana, everybody who's actually there, they all get very jealous at the prosperity that the Pandavas have. So this is where the palace in which all of this was happening, where the Kauravas were staying, so Duryodhana was mesmerized by the beauty of the palace and the illusion that the palace created. Some of you might have seen it in the Mahabharata serial, right? So Duryodhana is walking, and he's walking through a place which looks like water, right? And then he's lifting up his dhoti thinking it is water, but it is actually not real water. It is just filled with crystals which are reflecting like water, bubbles, right? So he looked very foolish. So next time, he was walking and he didn't think it was water, but it ends up being water. So he gets wet, right? So things like that. So multiple things like that happen because the person who, when this palace was built, it was built with all of these visual illusions that was actually there. So when this happens, everybody is laughing, right? So the Bhima, Arjuna, everybody is laughing, and Duryodhana is really put into shame. And once when he tries to walk through a place which looks like a door, but then it is not a door, and the other way around, right? He thinks it is actually, not a door, and then he walks into it and it's a door. He bumps himself into it. So all of this is happening, which is, he's just Sthala Jala Brahmad Abramit. He's just amazed at all the splendor that the Pandavas actually have, even though they have a very small portion of the kingdom. Tataha putta is tatas sumahite tvaya kratuvare nirudhe jano, yayau jayati dharmajo jayati Krishna ityalapan khalaha putta is khalas satu suyodhano dhutamanas sapatna shriya, mayarpita sabha mukhe sthala jala Brahmad Abhramit. I'm just breaking at the da into it and a. Brahmad Abhramit. Tata sumahite tvaya kratuvare nirudhe jano yayau jayati dharmajo jayati Krishna ityalapan khalasatu suyodhano dutamana sapatna shriya mahyarpita sabhamuke sthala jala Brahmad Abhramit.
ततः सुमहिते त्वया क्रतुवरे निरूढे जनो ययौ जयति धर्मजो जयति कृष्ण इत्यालपन् खलः स तु सुयोधनो धुतमनः सपत्नश्रिया मयार्पितसभामुखे स्थलजलप्रभ्रमादभ्रमीत् ततः सुमहिते त्वया क्रतुवरे निरूढे जनो ययौ जयति धर्मजो जयति कृष्ण इत्यालपन् खलः स तु सुयोधनो धुतमनः सपत्नश्रिया मयार्पितसभामुखे स्थलजलभ्रमादभ्रमीत्
ततः सुमहिते त्वया क्रतुवरे जनो ययौ जयति धर्मजो जयति कृष्ण इत्यालपन् खलः स तु सुयोधनो धुतमना सपत्नश्रिया मयार्पितसभामुखे स्थलजलभ्रमादभ्रमीत् ततः सुमहिते त्वया क्रतुवरे निरूढे जनो ययौ जयति धर्मजो जयति कृष्ण इत्यालपन् खलः स तु सुयोधनो धुतमना सपत्नश्रिया मयार्पितसभामुखे स्थलजलभ्रमादभ्रमीत्.
Give me 1 second, my page flipped. Yeah, Stanza 11. तथा हसितमुत्थितं द्रुपदनन्दना भीमयोः अपाङ्गकलया विभो किमपि तावदुजृम्भयन् धराभरनिराकृतौ सपदि नाम बीजं वपन् जनार्दनमरुत्पुरी निलय पाहि मामामयात्. So when multiple of this incidents like this happen, and then Duryodhana is insulted, right? Like he feels very insulted because of this massive palace that Maya, who is the architect of the Asuras, ends up building for the Pandavas. He's humiliated, but he is still okay. He's still jealous. But in one of the instances, it so happens that Drupada Nandana, the daughter of Drupada, Draupadi, and then Bhima laughed at Duryodhana extensively. So when that happened, that triggered Duryodhana. And here Bhattipat says, Sapadi, that triggered the bijam, that put the sword, the seeds for the Mahabharata war, which is actually going to happen from the next chapter. So Duryodhana is now really upset at everything that the Pandavas has, and now he is now bent on defeating them or getting rid of Pandavas completely. So that sowed the seed for that. So anyway, please eradicate my ignorance. Tada hasitam uttitham Drupada Nandana Bhimayoho, put a visarga comma, Bhimayoho, visarga comma. Next word, Rapanga becomes Apanga. Apanga Kalaya Vibho Kimapi Tavat Ujrumbhayan Dhara Bhara Nirakritau Sapadi Nama Bhijam Vapanne, comma. Janardhana Marutpuri Nilaya Pahi Mamamayat. Tada Hasitamuthitam Drupadhanandana Bhimayoho Apanga Kalaya Vibho Kimapita Vadujrumbhayan Dhara Bharanirakrtau Sapadi Nama Bijam Vapanne Janardhana Marutpuri Nilaya Pahi Mamamayat.
तदा हसितमुत्थितं द्रुपदनन्दना भीमयोः अपाङ्गकलया विभो किमपि तावदुजृम्भयन् धराभरनिराकृतौ सपदि नाम बीजं वपन् जनार्दनमरुत्पुरी निलय पाहि मामामयात् तदा हसितमुत्थितं द्रुपदनन्दना भीमयोः अपाङ्गकलया विभो किमपि तावदुजृम्भयन् धराभरनिराकृतौ सपदि नाम बीजं वपन् जनार्दनमरुत्पुरी निलय पाहि मामामयात्
तदा हसितमुत्थितं द्रुपदनन्दना भीमयोः अपाङ्गकलया विभो किमपि तावदुजृम्भयन् धराभरनिराकृतो सपदि नाम बीजं वपन् जनार्दनमरुत्पुरी निलय पाहि मामामयात् तदा हसितमुत्थितं द्रुपदनन्दना भीमयोः अपाङ्गकलया विभो किमपि तावदुजृम्भयन् धराभरनिराकृतो सपदि नाम बीजं वपन् जनार्दनमरुत्पुरी निलय पाहि मामामयात्. श्रीकृष्णाय परब्रह्मणे नमः.
Go to Dasakam 86. So 86 has got a lot of content in there. So it's got two parts. One is Salvadhi Vada Varnanam, getting rid of Salva, and Bharata Yuddha Varnam. It's got a description of the Mahabharata war from the context of Krishna. Not everything that happens in Mahabharata war, but wherever Krishna is involved, right? That's how it is actually covered. Stanza 1. Salvo Bhaishmi Vivahe Yadubala Vijitah Chandrachudad Vimanam Vindan Saubham Samahi Tvai Vasati Kurun Tvatpurim Abhyabhangshit Pradyumnastam Nirundhan Nikilayadubhataihi Nyagrahidugraviryam Tasyat Matyam Dhyumantam Vyajanicha Samara Saptavimshatyahantah. So this person called Salva is coming back. So the Salva came little bit during Krishna Avataram when Krishna abducted Rukmini. So again, the Salva, Jarasandha, all of them are one gang. Rukmi, they're all one. Shishupala, they're all one group. So the Salva, one place, he came there because he's advising Jarasandha. He was advising Shishupala, all of that. Anybody remembers where else in Narayaneeyam, outside of Krishna Avataram, The salva actually came. There was a mention of salva. Anybody, any chance remember? No? He actually came during the Parashurama Avataram. In the Parashurama Avataram, no, in that Dashakam 36, it says, Yagneshmamapi Kashyapadishu dishan salvena yudhyan punaha Krishno mum nihanishyati iti kshamito yuddhat kumarai bhavan. When Parashurama Avataram in Treta Yuga, when that was actually happening, Parashurama was battling with Salva. When he had given everything up, he was fighting with Salva, then he decided, you know what, it's not my duty. Because Krishna mum nihanishyati. He says later on in Dwapara Yuga, when Krishna is going to come, Salva is going to be gotten rid of. Because Salva is a very powerful person. First of all, he spanned multiple yugas. So I don't know how old he is. And two, we're going to see how powerful he is. So this Salva has a flying aerial vehicle which he gets from Lord Shiva, called as Saubha. So that Saubha, with that Saubha, he's able to traverse anywhere he wants, right? He can fly, and then what he does is, he decides that because Krishna is getting rid of Shishupala and, all of this person, Rukmi is gotten rid of by Balarama, all of that, Salva wants to take revenge, right? So he then attacks Dwaraka. He then attacks it with his flying vehicle in the Saubha, and then he's putting all kinds of missiles and all kinds of things on Dwaraka, completely trying to destroy Dwaraka. At that time, initially at the beginning of the war, Krishna is not there physically in Dwaraka. So at that time, Pradyumna and all of them are actually trying to, guard the fort, right? They're trying to protect Dwaraka, and this battle is lasting for 27 days. Between that, and they are not able to defeat Salva. At the same time, they're able to hold Dwaraka intact. Dwaraka is not getting destroyed, and they're able to protect Dwaraka, but not able to get rid of Salva. So Salvo Bhaishmi Vivahe. So Bhaishmi Vivahe means during the wedding of Rukmini. At that time, when he was all defeated, when everybody was defeated by the Yadava army, he then wants to take revenge now. Salvo Bhaishmi Vivahe Yadu Bala Vijitaha. Remove that ish. Put a visarga comma. Chandra Chudad Vimanam, comma. Vindan Saubham Samayi Twai Vasati Kurun. That is there. That is goes away. It becomes a in with a comma. Kurun, comma. Twat Purim Abhyabhangshi, breaking at that mark. Purim Abhyabhangshi. So this Dashakam is a little tough Dashakam, 86. Every stanza is a little bit long, and some of them are a little hard also. Salvo Bhaishmi Vivahe Yadubala Vijitah Chandra Chudad Vimanam Bindan Saubham Samahi Twai Vasati Kurun Twat Purim Abhyabhangshit.
साल्वो भैष्मी विवाहे यदुबलविजितः चन्द्रचूडाद्विमानं विन्दन् सौभं समायी त्वयि वसति कूरूं त्वत्पुरीमभ्यभाङ्क्षीत्. I think I missed something.
Yeah, I think the tune, I think you take that same, the Sandranandhava, that tune. Salvo Bhaishmi Vivahe.
साल्वो भैष्मी विवाहे यदुबलविजितः चन्द्रचूडाद्विमानम्. I will fix it later.
No,
विन्दन् समायी त्वयि वसति कूरूं त्वत्पुरीमभ्यभाङ्क्षीत्.
साल्यो भैष्मी विवाहे यदुबलविजितः चन्द्रचूडाद्विमानं विन्दन् सौभं समायी त्वयि वसति कुरून् त्वत्पुरीमभ्यभाङ्क्षीत्. साल्यो भैष्मी विवाहे यदुबलविजितः चन्द्रचूडाद्विमानं विन्दन् सौभं समायी त्वयि वसति कुरून् त्वत्पुरीमभ्यभाङ्क्षीत्.
Sorry, somebody had a
Is
question.
it Kurun or is it Kurun?
Kurun.
Okay, there's no.
Yeah. It's a short U for ka. Kurun. Pradyum Nastam Nirundhan Nikhila Yadu Bhataihi. Visarga, comma, Bhataihi. Next, on top of the word nya, there is a ir that goes away. Nyagrahidugraviryam, comma. Tasya matyam dhyumantam, comma. Vyajani cha samaraha, put a is to join, samaras, sapta vimshatyahantaha. प्रद्युम्नस्तं निरुन्धन् निखिलयदुभटैः न्यग्रहीदुग्रवीर्यं तस्यामात्यं द्युमन्तं व्यजनि च समरः सप्तविंशत्यहान्तः
प्रद्युम्नस्तं निरुन्धन् निखिलयदु प्रद्युम्नस्तं निरुन्धन् निखिलयदुभटैः न्यग्रहीदुग्रवीर्यं तस्यामात्यं द्युमन्तं व्यजनि च समरः सप्तविंशत्यहान्तम्
हान्तः last one हान्तः
प्रद्युम्नस्तं निरुन्धन् निखिलयदुभटैः न्यग्रहीदुग्रवीर्यं तस्यामात्यं द्युमन्तं व्यजनि च समरः सप्तविंशत्यहान्तः
प्रद्युम्नस्तं निरुन्धन् प्रद्युम्नस्तं. Can you start that?
Yeah, sure. प्रद्युम्नस्तं निरुन्धन् निखिलयदुभटैः.
Okay, thank you. प्रद्युम्नस्तं निरुन्धन् निखिलयदुभटैः न्यग्रहीदुग्रवीर्यं तस्यामात्यं द्युमन्तं व्यजनि च समरः सप्तविंशत्यहान्तः प्रद्युम्नस्तं निरुन्धन् निखिलयदुभटैः न्यग्रहीदुग्रवीर्यं तस्यामात्यं द्युमन्तं व्यजनि च समरः सप्तविंशत्यहान्तः.
That's it. तावत्त्वं रामशाली त्वरितमुपगतः खण्डितप्रायसैन्यं सौभेशं तं न्यरुन्धाः स च किल गदया शार्ङ्गम् अभ्रंशयत्ते मायातातं व्यहिंसीदपि तव पुरतः तत्त्वयापि क्षणार्धं नाज्ञायीत्याहुरेके तदिदमवमतं व्यास एव न्यषेधीत्. So the Pradyumna is holding that fort for 27 days. And finally, Krishna and Balarama come. I don't know where they had gone. Maybe they were at the Indraprastha when that was happening. So anyway, so Krishna and Balarama comes. And at the time, Krishna then goes on to take the battle with Salva. So, Salva is trying to do all sides because he has his aerial vehicle, right? So he's trying to do all sorts of attacks from that aerial vehicle. And at one point, what Salva does, very similar to what happens in Ramayana, that what Salva does is he's sending a man who's coming and saying that Devaki has sent me, right? And he's like trying to blackmail Krishna by saying, like the villains do is by arresting your parents, right? So he comes by saying he's bringing a head of Vasudeva, a chopped head of Vasudeva in front of Krishna, and saying, look, I've chopped the head of Vasudeva, and next is going to be Devaki, and then Devaki, this person is coming and pleading, as if from Devaki's side, tell Krishna, Krishna, please stop fighting with Salva, because otherwise he's going to get rid of me also. He's already killed Vasudeva. So he tries to do all these illusions, very similar to Indrajit had done for Rama and Lakshmana there. But no, Krishna realizes all that, so he's not impacted by that. And then the battle then goes between them. And here, the one reference that is made here is, there are references which said Krishna was tricked into it. So here Bhattacharya is clarifying that there's no way Krishna is going to get tricked by these illusions, because Vyasa himself has said in Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna was not tricked by it. He just pretended to act like he's actually tricked by it, right? But in reality, he was not tricked. There's no way Krishna would have got tricked. That's why that, that last portion is coming saying, Tadidam avamatam Vyasa eva nyashedi. Says Vyasa himself has very emphatically confirmed that Krishna was not tricked by this illusion. He just acted as if he was tricked by it to give Salva feeling of, greatness there. Tavatvam Ramashali त्वरितम् उपगतः, खण्डित प्राय सैन्यं, सौभेशं तं न्यरुन्धाः, स च किल गदया शार्ङ्गम् अभ्रंशयत्ते. तावत्त्वं रामशाली त्वरितमुपगतः खण्डितप्रायसैन्यं सौभेशं तं न्यरुन्धाः स च किल गदया शार्ङ्गम् अभ्रंशयत्ते
तावत्त्वं रामशाली त्वरितमुपगतः खण्डितप्रायसैन्यं सौभेशं तं यरुन्धाः स च किल गदया शार्ङ्गमभ्रंशयत् ते तावत्त्वं रामशाली त्वरितमुपगतः खण्डितप्रायसैन्यं सौभेशं तं यरुन्धाः स च किल गदया शार्ङ्गमभ्रंशयत् ते
तावत्त्वं रामशाली त्वरितमुपगतः खण्डितप्रायसैन्यं सौभेशं तं निरुन्धाः स च किल गदया शार्ङ्गमभ्रंशयत्ते तावत्त्वं रामशाली त्वरितमुपगतः खण्डितप्रायसैन्यं सौभेशं तं निरुन्धाः स च किल गदया शार्ङ्गमभ्रंशयत्ते
माया तातं व्यहिंसीदपि तव पुरतः the is goes away visarga comma puratah tatvyapi kshanardham comma nagnya ityahureke it's one word cannot break it nagnya ityahureke comma tadidam avamatam vyasa eva nyashedhit माह्यातातं व्यहिंसीदपि तव पुरतः तत्त्वयापि क्षणार्धं नाज्ञा इत्याहुरेके तदिदमवमतं व्यास एव न्यषेधीत्
माया तातं यहिंसीदपि तव पुरतः तत्त्वयापि क्षणार्थं नाज्ञायीत्याहुरेके तदिदमवमतं व्यास एव न्यषेधीत् माया तातं यहिंसीदपि तव पुरतः तत्त्वयापि क्षणार्धं नाज्ञायीत्याहुरेके तदिदमवमतं व्यास एव न्यषेधीत्
माया तादं व्यहिंसीदपि तव पुरतः तत्त्वयाभिक्षणार्थं ज्ञात्याहुरेके तदिदमवमतं व्यास एव न्यषेधीत् माया तादं व्यहिंसीदपि तव पुरतः तत्त्वयाभिक्षणार्थं ज्ञात्याहुरेके तदिदमवमदं व्यास एव न्यषेधीत्
That's a three. क्षिप्त्वा सौभं गधा चूर्णितमुदकनिधौ मंशुसाल्वेऽपि चक्रे नोत्कृत्ते दन्तवक्त्रः प्रसवमभिपतन्नभ्यमुञ्चद्गदां ते कौमोदक्या हतोऽसावपि सुकृतनिधिश्चैद्यवत् प्रापदैख्यं सर्वेषामेष पूर्वं त्वयि ऋतमनसां मोक्षणार्थोऽवतारः. Then Krishna with his Kaumodaki, which is with his club, he then, the battle is continuing with Salva. He then breaks that Saubha, which is that spaceship. So that spaceship is actually broken. And then Salva and Krishna then battle. Eventually with Sudarshana Chakra, Krishna gets rid of Salva. So Salva comes to an end there. So next, another person is coming to fight, which is Dantavaktra. So there's not much history on Dantavaktra, but like we said, Jaya Vijaya's pair, his Vijaya born as Dantavaktra. Shishupala, there is more content in terms of how he connects to Krishna, all the interactions he's had with Krishna. Not much on Dantavaktra, but Dantavaktra is coming to battle here. Unlike Shishupala, he also hurls all kinds of abuses because like Jaya, Vijaya, Shishupala, Dantavaktra, the purpose of this is their last birth, right? But they have to be always thinking of Krishna, but in a negative way, right? So that's what Dantavaktra also does. He comes to fight Krishna to get rid of him, does all kinds of abuses. With the Kaumodaki, Krishna also gets rid of Dantavaktra. And then Dantavaktra attains liberation. Salva doesn't attain liberation. Dantavaktra attains liberation. So because that's why it says here. So this Krishna, one of the primary purposes of Krishna Avataram was Kamsa, of course, and then but also Dantavaktra and Shishupala, because that three had to be completed with Jaya Vijaya finally returning to Vaikuntham. So with that story of Jaya Vijaya comes to an end in this as well. So Salva is gotten rid of Dantavaktra, and then Dantavaktra, some other person is also there. That battle also happens here. Kshiptva Saubham Gadachurnitam Udaka Nidhau, comma, Mankshu Salvepi Chakre Notkritte. So put a plus at the end of that line. Mankshu Salvepi Chakre Notkritte Dantavakraha, then a comma. Okay, so Udaka Nidhau, comma in the first line, then continuous, then after Dantavakraha, comma. Prasabham, breaking at that ma, Prasabham Abhipatan, the double na there, but we can say in and r to make it simpler. Prasabham Abhipatan Abhyamunchat Gadamte. Kshiptva Saubham Gadachurnitamudaka Nidhau Mankshu Salvepi Chakre Notkritte Dantavakraha Prasabham Abhipatan Abhyamunchat Gadamte.
क्षिप्त्वा सौभं गदाचूर्णितम् उदकनिधौ मंशुसाल्वेऽपि चक्रेणोत्कृत्ते दन्तवक्त्रः प्रसभमभिपतन्नभ्यमुञ्चद्गदान्ते क्षिप्त्वा सौभं गदाचूर्णितम् उदकनिधौ मंशुसाल्वेऽपि चक्रेणोत्कृत्ते दन्तवक्त्रः प्रसभमभिपतन्नभ्यमुञ्चद्गदान्ते
सौभं गदाचूर्णितमुदकनिधौ मंक्षुसाल्वेऽपि चक्रेणोत्कृत्ते दन्तवक्त्रः प्रसभमभिपतन्नभ्यमुञ्चद्गदां ते क्षिप्त्वा सौभं गदाचूर्णितमुदकनिधौ मंक्षुसाल्वेऽपि चक्रेणोत्कृत्ते दन्तवक्त्रः प्रसभमभिपतन्नभ्यमुञ्चद्गदां ते
Kaumodakya Hatosavapi, comma, Sukruta Nidhish Chaidya Vat Prapadaikyam, comma, Sarveshamesha Purvam Tvayi Dhrita Manasam, comma, Mokshanartho Avataraha. That's one word. Mokshanartho Avataraha. Kaumodakya Hatosavapi Sukrutanidhischaidyavad prapadaikyam sarveshamesha purvam tvayi dhritamanasam mokshanartho vataraha.
कौमोदक्याहतो सावपि सकृतनिधिश्चैद्यवत्स्पापदैक्यं सर्वेषामेष पूर्वं त्वयि धृतमनसां मोक्षणार्थोऽवतारः कौमोदक्याहतो सावपि सुकृतनिधिश्चैद्यवत्स्प्रापदैक्यं सर्वेषामेष पूर्वं त्वयि धृतमनसां मोक्षणार्थोऽवतारः
कौमोदक्याहतो सावपि सुकृतनिधिश्चैद्यवत्प्रापदैक्यं सर्वेषामेष पूर्वं त्वयि धृतमनसां मोक्षणार्थोऽवतारः कौमोदक्याहतो सावपि सुकृतनिधिश्चैद्यवत्प्रापदैक्यं सर्वेषामेष पूर्वं त्वयि धृतमनसां मोक्षणार्थोऽवतारः.
Rajesh, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
The second word, hatu, my book says hatu sovapi. It should be savapi.
Savapi. It's hataha asavapi, but that S symbol is coming, right? So it becomes one word. Hato savapi. Sons of hope. Tvayha yate tajate kila kuru sadasi dhyutake samyatayaha krandantya yajnasenyaha sakaranamakrutaschelamalam anantam annanta prapta sharvam shajamuni chakita draupadi chintitota prapta shakanamashnan muniganamakritaha triptimantam vanante. Next several stanzas, right? So many stories are going to come, but essentially it all talks about how much Krishna has help the Pandavas, right? And then Draupadi. So here he's talking about two examples. Like I said, the stories get woven, the timelines are all kind of getting mixed a little bit. So don't worry about, hey, something happened before, but it's getting talked about now. That's okay. He's just talking in the context of everything related to the Bharata war, right? So he says, when the game of dice was going on, and Draupadi was then brought over to the court, and she was wearing just one layer of cloth. And then when the Dushasana, everybody started disrobing her. And at that time, Draupadi called out to Govinda, right? And you all know that story, right? She kept trying all sorts of things. Nobody could protect her. She couldn't kind of protect herself either. And finally, she was holding the one layer of cloth with her teeth. And only when she let that go and then called out to Krishna, then at that, because in a complete surrender, right? You have to have that faith and have that complete surrender, which she does, which is letting off go even that cloth that she was holding with her teeth and called out, "Oh Krishna," you then came and rescued Draupadi there with this endless cloth, right? That they could not do anything. That is the first part of the story. It says another time where you helped them, Krishna, was when they had all gone to the forest. So the Duryodhana one time invites Durvasa to come to his house, and then he feeds Durvasa and his disciples. So this is very similar to Dashakam 33 when Ambarisho Patyana, when Ambarisha's time Durvasa comes. Similarly, Duryodhana sends Durvasa to where the Pandavas are in the forest. So they had this, Pandavas had this vessel where once Draupadi eats, then that vessel will stop producing more food. Till then, it can feed how many ever people they want. So he sends them at a particular time when Draupadi had finished eating. And at that time, Durvasa comes with all his disciples. And then he comes and then he asks for food. And then they have absolutely no food available. So when he steps out to take a bath and before he comes back, at that time, Draupadi calls out to Krishna and Krishna comes there. And that's when he goes and asks Draupadi, say, bring me that vessel. Draupadi says, there's no food left in the vessel. He says, just bring me whatever is there. And there's a small piece of leaf which is sticking to the vessel, which Krishna eats. And then there, Durvasa and all his people feel full. So they are afraid to come back now because they're worried that Draupadi would have cooked a feast and then they cannot eat it. So they all run away. So with this, oh Krishna, you helped and bailed out Draupadi multiple times, right? Because she had faith and then she called out to you at the time of need. त्वय्या यातेत जाते किल कुरु सदसि, द्यूतके संयतायाः क्रन्दन्त्या याज्ञसेन्याः, सकरुणं, breaking at that ma, सकरुणं अकृताश् चेलमालाम् अनन्ताम्. त्वय्या यातेत जाते किल कुरु सदसि द्यूतके संयतायाः क्रन्दन्त्या याज्ञसेन्याः सकरुणमकृताश्चेलमालाम् अनन्ताम्.
त्वय्या यातेऽथ जाते किल कुरु सदसि द्यूतके संयतायाः क्रन्दन्त्या याज्ञसेन्याः सकरुणमकृताश्चेलमालाम् अनन्ताम्. त्वय्या यातेऽथ जाते किल कुरु सदसि द्यूतके संयतायाः क्रन्दन्त्या याज्ञसेन्याः सकरुणमकृताश्चेलमालाम् अनन्ताम्.
त्वय्या यातेऽथ जाते किल कुरु सदसि द्यूतके संयतायाः क्रन्दन्त्यायाज्ञसेन्याः सकरुणमकृताश्चेलमालामनन्दाम्. त्वय्या यातेऽथ जाते किल कुरु सदसि द्यूतके संयतायाः क्रन्दन्त्यायाज्ञसेन्याः सकरुणमकृताश्चेलमालामनन्दाम्.
अन्नान्त प्राप्त शर्वांशज मुनि चकित द्रौपदी चिन्तितोथ, so the line is continuous, comma at the end. Praptah, put a ish, praptash shakannamashnan muni ganam akritaha, the is goes away, put a visarga comma, muni ganam akritaha triptimantam vanante. So they go away because their stomach feels full. They're very satisfied with it even before eating. अह्नान्तप्राप्त शर्वांशजमुनिचकित द्रौपदी चिन्तितोऽथ प्राप्तः शाकान्नमश्नन् मुनिगणमकृताः तृप्तिमन्तं वनान्ते
अन्नान्त प्राप्त शर्वां मुनि चकित द्रौपदी चिन्तितोऽथ प्राप्तः शाकान्नमश्नन् मुनिगणमकृताः तृप्तिमन्तं वनान्ते अन्नान्त प्राप्त शर्वां मुनि चकित द्रौपदी चिन्तितोऽथ प्राप्तः शाकान्नमश्नन् मुनिगणमकृताः तृप्तिमन्तं वनान्ते
अन्नान्तप्राप्तशर्वांशजमुनिचकितद्रौपदी चिन्तितोऽथ प्राप्तः शाकान्नमश्नन् मुनिगणमकृताः तृप्तिमन्दं वनान्ते अन्नान्तप्राप्तशर्वांशजमुनिचकितद्रौपदी चिन्तितोऽथ प्राप्तः शाकान्नमश्नन् मुनिगणमकृताः तृप्तिमन्दं वनान्ते.
We'll switch halfway point. Jyoti Devi can be student and Lakshmi Garu can be student. Stanza 5. युद्धोद्योगेत मन्त्रे मिलति सति वृतः फल्गुनेन त्वमेकः कौरव्ये दत्तसैन्यः करिपुरमगमो दौत्यकृत् पाण्डवार्तं भीष्मद्रोणादिमान्ये तव खलु वचने धिक्कृते कौरवेन व्यावृण्वन् विश्वरूपं मुनिसदसि पुरीं क्षोभयित्वा गतो भूः. Again, multiple stories embedded here. So you know the story that when the war finally, they decide to have the war. So before that happens, Krishna actually goes there to the court in Hastinapura to say that I've come on behalf of the Pandavas, that Pandavas don't want a war, right? That you just give them the appropriate portion of the land that belongs to them. At that time, everybody agrees. Even Bhishma, everybody is Drona, everybody agrees to it. And even Dhritarashtra agrees to it. But Duryodhana doesn't agree. He says, I won't give them anything. Then Krishna then negotiates it down, saying, can you at least give them 5 villages, one for each of the Pandavas? Duryodhana says no. Then he says, okay, give them 5 cents of land or some count of land for the Pandavas. Even that Duryodhana says no. And then he says, I won't even give them a land occupied by the tip of a needle. Even that much I'm not going to give the Pandavas, right? So when he does it and he tries to arrest Krishna, Duryodhana tries to arrest Krishna. At the time, Krishna then does the Vishwarupam there, which very briefly Dhritarashtra and others get to see for a fraction of a second to show that how powerful, if he wishes, he could get rid of the entire Kauravas instantly, but he won't do it, right? He shows that Vishwarupam to say that you cannot arrest me. And then there is a long story about Vidura, who is one of the brothers, along, because he is the third son of Vyasa, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and then Vidura, because they came through that I mentioned earlier, right? How that each of the mothers could not conceive. So Vyasa was called in to give birth to these people. So Vidura, he's also a great warrior, is a great advisor. He walks away because he tells Dhritarashtra, you don't agree to this. This is going to be the downfall of the Kauravas. And then he advises, Dhritarashtra refuses to listen to it. So Vidura goes away. So that is the story of Vidura leaving. Then the other portion which is coming is once the war has been decided, remember that in one of the Dasakam we saw how Duryodhana is the Sambandhi of Krishna. Because Duryodhana, his daughter Lakshmana was married to Krishna's son, right? So at that time, so Duryodhana and Arjuna come to Krishna asking for help. So that's where Arjuna is sitting at the feet, Duryodhana is sitting at the head, and Krishna says, okay, I'll give one I'll have is, I will participate, but absolutely I will not lift a weapon. Second is my entire Yadava army is going to come to support. Arjuna picks Krishna, Duryodhana picks the Yadava army. So all of that is set and the battle is now, all of that is getting set for the battle. So Yuddho Dhyogeta Mantre Milati Sati, Vritaha, put a F, Vritaf, Phalgunena Twamekaha, Kauravye Datta Sainyaha, Karipuram Agamo. So the next word, in some books it has Dhutyakrit, some books have Dautyakrit. So it means the same thing. Krishna is coming as a Dhuta. So we'll stick to Dautyakrit for consistency. So Dhautyakrit Pandavartham. is going as a messenger on behalf of the Pandavas. युद्धोद्योगे तमन्त्रे मिलति सति वृतः फल्गुनेन त्वमेकः कौरव्ये दत्तसैन्यः करिपुरमगमो दौत्यकृत् पाण्डवार्थम्
युद्धोद्योगे धमन्द्रे मिलति सति वृतः फल्गुनेन त्वमेकः कौरव्ये दत्तसैन्यः करिपुरमगमो दौत्यकृत् पाण्डवार्थम् युद्धोद्योगे धमन्द्रे मिलति सति वृतः फल्गुनेन त्वमेकः कौरव्ये दत्तसैन्यः करिपुरमगमो दौत्यकृत् पाण्डवार्थम्
युद्धोद्योगे तमन्त्रे मिलति सति वृतः फल्गुनेन त्वमेकः कौरव्ये दत्तसैन्यः करिपुरम् अगमो दैत्यकृत् पाण्डवार्थम्.
Actually, that first line, Vritaha, that it takes a sound of a F. So, Vritaf Phalgunena. Okay. And then,
वृतः
yeah.
फल्गुने.
Yeah. And the second line is Dautya-krit Pandavartham.
Okay. युद्धोद्योगे तमन्त्रे मिलति सति वृतः फल्गुनेन त्वमेकः कौरव्ये दत्तसैन्यः करिपुरम् अगमो दौत्यकृत् पाण्डवार्थम्.
भीष्म द्रोणादि मान्ये तव खलु वचने धिक्कृते कौरवेण व्यावृण्वन् विश्वरूपं मुनि सदसि पुरीं क्षोभयित्वा गतो भूः. So with that he just shows his cosmic form, and then he he's like what do you call lighting up the city, right, by what he did, and then Krishna then departs to Dwaraka. Bhishma Dronadi manye tava khalu vachane धिक्कृते कौरवेण व्यावृण्वन् विश्वरूपं मुनिसदसि पुरीं क्षोभयित्वा गतो भूः.
भीष्मद्रोणादिमान्ये तव खलु वचने धिक्कृते कौरवेण व्यावृण्वन् विश्वरूपं मुनिसदसि पुरीं क्षोभयित्वा गतो भूः. भीष्मद्रोणादिमान्ये तव खलु वचने धिक्कृते कौरवेण व्यावृण्वन् विश्वरूपं मुनिसदसि पुरीं क्षोभयित्वा गतो भूः.
भीष्मद्रोणादिमान्ये तव खलु वचने धिक्कृते कौरवेण व्यावृण्वन् विश्वरूपं मुनिसदसि पुरीं शोभयित्वा गतो भूः.
The last line, the comma is after Munisadasi, Puri Kshobayitva.
Okay. भीष्मद्रोणादिमान्ये तव खलु वचने धिक्कृते कौरवेण व्यावृण्वन् विश्वरूपं मुनिसदसि पुरीं क्षोभयित्वा गतो भूः.
Stanza 6. जिष्णोस्त्वं कृष्णसूतः खलु समरमुखे बन्धुघाते दयालुं खिन्नं तं वीक्ष्य वीरं किमिदमयि सखे नित्य एको ह्यमात्मा को वद्यः कोऽत्र हन्ता तदिह वदभियं प्रोज्य मय्यर्पितात्मा धर्म्यं युद्धं चरेति प्रकृतिमनयता दर्शयन् विश्वरूपम्. Beautiful stuff. Bhagavad Gita just summarized in one stanza here, right? Saying that at the time of the battle, when Arjuna is standing and he sees all of his people and he's unable to fight, right? At that time, when Arjuna asks Krishna, why should I fight, right? To that one question, Krishna gives 700 stanzas of Bhagavad Gita with everything from Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and everything that is to be known, right? And then he talks about Nitya Ekoyam Atma, how our soul is always there. And then who is the killer, who is the killed, who is to be killed, right? It's just a incarnation of that soul, which is actually happening there. And then with that, he teaches. You all know Bhagavad Gita, so he just talks about it, saying that you do your duty, and then proje mai arpitatma, dedicate all of your actions to me. So with that, Krishna then gives Arjuna the Bhagavad Gita, and then also darshayan vishwarupam, also shows Arjuna the vishwarupam there. Jishnos tvam Krishna sutaha. So he becomes the charioteer, right? Krishna sutaha, comma. Khalu samara mukhe bandhu ghate dayalum, comma. Khinnam tam vikshya viram kimidam ai sakhe, comma. Nitya ekoyam atma. If you all go to Guruvayur at some point, there's a very beautiful Parthasarathi temple that I visited this time also. I go there every time. It's right opposite next to the Guruvayur train station. Very beautiful temple where Krishna is as Sarathi, right? And then the main mandapa of Krishna is there. The side of it has two big wheels. So it's the entire structure is like a chariot. And with Krishna sitting there in between, he's got the rod to to this thing, and then they also have a procession of the chariot that happens every day with Krishna and Arjuna in it, and the chariot goes around the temple. So very beautiful Parthasarathi temple there. Jishnostvam Krishna sutah khalu samara mukhe bandhu ghate dayalum khinnam tam vikshya viram kimidamai sakhe nitya eko hyamatma.
जिष्णो त्वं कृष्णसूदः खलु समरमुखे बन्धुखादे दयालुं खिन्नं तं वीक्ष्य वीरं किमिदमयि सखे नित्य एकोऽयमात्मा जिष्णोस्त्वं कृष्णसूदः खलु समरमुखे बन्धुखादे दयालुं खिन्नं तं वीक्ष्य वीरं किमिदमयि सखे नित्य एकोऽयमात्मा
जिष्णोस्त्वं कृष्णसूतः खलु समरमुखे बन्धुघाते दयालुं खिन्नं तं वीक्ष्य वीरं किमिदमयि सखे नित्य एकोऽयमात्मा जिष्णोस्त्वं कृष्णसूतः खलु समरमुखे बन्धुघाते दयालुं खिन्नं तं वीक्ष्य वीरं किमिदमयि सखे नित्य एकोऽयमात्मा.
Ko vadyaha, that isarga becomes a ich sound. Ko vadyah kotra hanta, comma, tadiha vada bhiyam projya mayarpitatma, comma, dharmyam yuddham chareti, comma, prakritim anayatha darshayan vishwarupam. Sorry, it says my internet connection is unstable, so if I lose you all, just let me know. Ko vadyah kotra hanta tadiha vadabhiyam projya mayarpitatma dharmyam yuddham chareti prakriti manayata darshayan vishwarupam.
को वध्यः कोऽत्र हन्ता तदिह वधभियं प्रोच्य मय्यर्पितात्मा धर्म्यं युद्धं चरेति प्रकृतिमनयथा दर्शयन् विश्वरूपं को वध्यः कोऽत्र हन्ता तदिह वधभियं प्रोच्य मय्यर्पितात्मा धर्म्यं युद्धं चरेति प्रकृतिमनयथा दर्शयन् विश्वरूपम्.
I have a quick question. So yeah, I have prakriti mana yathaha. That there's visarga after tha before the darshayan.
No, it's not that. You can remove it because generally before da they won't put it. So you can remove that then.
And then the first line, is it progya? What is it? Progya?
It's
vidha
no, it's both the jas. Ja, right? Both of those. Projya. So both of them half. Projya mayarpitatma.
को वद्यः कोऽत्र हन्ता तदिह वधभियं प्रोच्य मय्यर्पितात्मा धर्म्यं युद्धं चरेति प्रकृतिमनयथा दर्शयन् विश्वरूपं को वध्यः कोऽत्र हन्ता तदिह वधभियं प्रोच्य मय्यर्पितात्मा धर्म्यं युद्धं चरेति प्रकृतिमन यथा दर्शयन् विश्वरूपम्.
7. भक्तोत्तम सेत भीष्मे तव धरणिभर क्षेप कृत्यैकसक्ते नित्यं नित्यं बिबिन्दत्ययुत समधिकं प्राप्त सादे च पार्थे निःशस्त्रत्व प्रतिज्ञां विजगदरिवरं धारयन् क्रोधशाली वादावन् प्राञ्जलिं तं नतशिरसमतो वीक्ष्य मोदादपाघाः. So, a couple of stanzas in this are dedicated to Bhishma and how he's a great devotee of Krishna. So, it says Bhakta Uttam Sameta is a great devotee, Bhishma. So, what was happening was when the war was going on, Bhishma was getting rid of, on an average, it says Ayutham, which is about, 10,000 Pandava soldiers every day Bhishma was getting rid of. And so he was literally wiping out through the Pandava army. But one thing Bhishma was not doing, which upset Arjuna, was he was not able to get rid of the Pandavas. So one day Duryodhana goes there to Bhishma and says that I still feel that you have a partiality to the Pandavas, that you are not getting rid of the Pandavas. So he says, if you cannot, you step down, because he'll make Karna the next commander, right? So Bhishma takes a vow. Bhishma takes a vow that tomorrow, the next day, he is going to get rid of the Pandavas, specifically Arjuna, and then he's going to wipe the Pandavas out. So Bhishma takes a vow. So when that woe happens, and Draupadi feels very upset, but everybody comes to know about it. So Draupadi goes to Krishna for help, saying that Krishna, you have to help me out here. So Krishna says that night, Krishna says, Draupadi, you come with me. So they both go to the tent where Bhishma is. And Krishna tells Draupadi, you remove your sandals, walk without your sandals, and they go. And then they go, and then first Bhishma is, then somebody enters, and Bhishma is then asking, who is it? So Krishna says, when you go and see Bhishma, even before he sees you, you first go fall on his feet. So even before Bhishma realizes who it is, Draupadi goes and falls on Bhishma's feet. So Bhishma then, blesses her, right? Saying that Saubhagyavati Baba, whatever he says, saying that you will live long with your husband. So then he looks up, and then he sees it's Draupadi, right? So he's just blessed Draupadi to saying that your husbands will all be strong and alive. And then he sees that Krishna is carrying Draupadi's sandals in his hands, because he didn't want to make that sandals make noise. Because if the sandals make noise, then Bhishma will come to know who it is, right? So Krishna literally helped Draupadi that way. So Bhishma comes to know that Krishna essentially is doing things to prevent anything happening to the Pandavas, which means Bhishma has taken a vow, and Krishna is making Bhishma break that vow. He's going to make it not possible. So Bhishma then challenges Krishna, saying, Krishna, you have taken a vow, which is not to take any weapon. It is my responsibility to make sure you break that vow. So that is the other thing that Bhishma says. So the next day in the battle that happens, Bhishma is not able to get rid of the Pandavas, and Arjuna is not able to defeat Bhishma or get rid of Bhishma. So at that time, Krishna then tells Arjuna, that's when you might have seen the famous picture of Krishna stepping down with a wheel. So there's a very important clarification there is, Krishna has control over his stuff. He's not going to get upset or lose his temper and actually try to fight, right? His point was two things. One, he had to instigate Arjuna to get more excited about this thing. So he tells Arjuna, if you don't fight over Arjuna, Krishna gets down, takes his cloth and says, I can turn this cloth into a chakram and I can get rid of Bhishma in an instant. Right? So he tries to do that for two things. One is he also wants to make Bhishma win, because Bhishma is a great devotee. So Bhishma has taken a vow that he's going to make Krishna break his vow of taking a weapon. So Krishna pretends to take a weapon so that Bhishma wins, but there was never an intention of Krishna to get rid of Bhishma, because Bhishma is the greatest of devotees that we're going to see later. He's going to do the Vishnu Sahasranamam, right? So Krishna would never do anything to Bhishma, but he did that to make Bhishma win, and also to get Arjuna more, interested in fighting with Bhishma. So anyway, that is the entire thing is condensed here as the incident that actually takes place, that Krishna helps Draupadi out again. Bhakto tamseta bhishme, tava dharani bhara kshepa krityaika sakte, nityam nityam vibhindatyayutha. So that word comes together. Vibhindatyayutha samadhikam prapta sade cha parthe. So second line is continuous, no comma. Bhaktotam seta bhishme tava dharani bharakshepakrtyaikasakte nityam nityam vibindatyayuta samadhikam prapta sade cha parthe.
भक्तोतं सेध भीष्मे तव धरणिभरक्षेपकृत्यैकसक्ते नित्यं नित्यं बिभिन्दत्ययुधसमधिकं प्राप्तसादे च पार्थे भक्तोतं सेध भीष्मे तव धरणिभरक्षेपकृत्यैकसक्ते नित्यं नित्यं बिभिन्दत्ययुधसमधिकं प्राप्तसादे च पार्थे
भक्तोतं सेतभीष्मे तव धरणिभरक्षेपकृत्यैकसक्ते नित्यं नित्यं विभिन्दत् ययुतसमधिकं प्राप्तसाते च पार्थे भक्तोतं सेतभीष्मे तव धरणिभरक्षेपकृत्यैकसक्ते नित्यं नित्यं विभिन्दत् ययुतसमधिकं प्राप्तसाते च पार्थे
Praptasade cha parthe. That word letter is cha. Yeah. Nishastratva pratignyam vijahadarivaram dharayan krodashali long e put a plus vadhavan and then a comma. So the whole third line and then vadhavan comma. Pranjalim tam natha shira samato vikshya modadapagaha. निःशस्त्रत्वप्रतिज्ञां विजहदरिवरं धारयन् क्रोधशाली बाधावन् प्राञ्जलिं तं नतशिरसमतो वीक्ष्य मोदादपाघाः
निःशस्त्रत्वप्रतिज्ञां विजहदरिपरं धारयन् क्रोधशाली वाधावन् प्राञ्जलिं तं नदशिरसमथो वीक्ष्य मोदादपागाः निःशस्त्रत्वप्रतिज्ञां विजहदरिवरं धारयन् क्रोधशाली वाधावन् प्राञ्जलिं तं नदशिरसमथो वीक्ष्य मोदादपागाः
निःशस्त्रत्वप्रतिज्ञां विजहदरिवरं धारयन् क्रोधशाली वाधावन् प्राञ्जलिं तं नतशिरसमधो वीक्ष्य मोदादपागाः
Let's figure out that fourth line after vadhavan comma. Okay, so third line is continuous and then vadhavan comma.
Okay. निःशस्त्रत्वप्रतिज्ञां विजहदरिवरं धारयन् क्रोधशाली वाधावन् प्राञ्जलिं तं नतशिरसमधो वीक्ष्य मोदादपागाः
Stanza 8. युद्धे द्रोणस्य हस्ते स्थिररणभगदत्तेरितं वैष्णवास्त्रं वक्षस्यादत्र चक्रस्थगितरविमहाः प्रार्थयत् सिन्धुराजं नागास्त्रे कर्णमुक्ते क्षितिमवनमयन् केवलं कृत्तमौलिं तत्रापि पार्थं किमिव न हि भवान् पाण्डवानामकार्षीत्. He says, where all Krishna did you not help the Pandavas, right? So at the end of this Mahabharata war, there is a story about this, I forget, this Ghatotkacha's son who had this power, who doesn't fight, but he's a witness to the entire war. And everybody goes and asks him, who is the hero of the war? And people say, oh, Arjuna, Bhima, and all of that. He says, no, Krishna is the hero of the war because although he didn't fight, he literally saves Pandavas multiple times. And here it says through multiple examples of what it is, right? So one is that Bhagadatta. So that Bhagadatta, he had a Vaishnavastram with him. So with which he tries to, he does a lot of penance to get that Vaishnavastram. And when he tries to poke it at Arjuna, and try to hit it at Arjuna, Krishna takes that Vaishnavastram onto him. Because it's in a Vaishnavastram belongs to Krishna, Vaishnavastram. So nothing, it just comes back to its owner. So with that, Krishna protects Arjuna from Bhagadatta. Then there's a Jayadratha story, that Jayadratha is married to Dushala, who's the one sister of the 100 Kauravas. And that Jayadratha had a at a thing, he's the one, who does the chakra vyuha, right? He establishes that where Abhimanyu gets stuck into it, all of that stuff. So at that time, Arjuna makes a promise that if he doesn't get rid of Jayadratha before sunset the next day, then he's going to jump into fire. That's Arjuna's vow, because to take revenge against Abhimanyu. But there's so much protection, right, at a time. So they're distracting him. He's not able to get rid of him. That's when Krishna, the Sudarshana Astram, is hiding the sun. So it feels like it is sunset. And then Jayadratha then comes out thinking that sunset is over. Arjuna is not able to do anything. At that time, Krishna retracts the Sudarshana Chakra. The sun is back up. Arjuna then gets rid of Jayadratha. And then, of course, with Karna, you all know the story. But Karna is trying to put the Nagastra towards Arjuna, and then his charioteer says, aim at Arjuna's heart. But Karna says, no, I want to aim at Arjuna's head. I want to chop his head off, which when Krishna puts his toe down, and then it goes and hits Arjuna's crown, right? And Arjuna gets saved. Anyway, all of the multiple things that Krishna does to save the Pandavas, especially Arjuna. So, Kimiva Nahi Bhavan, what all have we not done to save the Pandavas? युद्धे द्रोणस्य हस्ति स्थिर रण भगदत्तेरितं वैष्णवास्त्रं वक्षस्याधत्त चक्र स्थगित रवि महाः प्रार्थयत् सिन्धुराजम् युद्धे द्रोणस्य हस्ते स्थिररण भगदत्तेरितं वैष्णवास्त्रं वक्षस्याधत्त चक्र स्थगित रवि महाः प्रार्थयत् सिन्धुराजम्
युद्धे द्रोणस्य हस्ते स्थिररणभगदत्तेरिदं वैष्णवास्त्रं वक्षस्यादत्तचक्रस्थगितरविमहाः प्रार्थयत् सिन्धुराजम् युद्धे द्रोणस्य हस्ते स्थिररणभगदत्तेरिदं वैष्णवास्त्रं वक्षस्यादत्तचक्रस्थगितरविमहाः प्रार्थयत् सिन्धुराजम्
युद्धे द्रोणस्य हस्तिस्थिररणभगदत्तेरितं वैष्णवास्त्रं वक्षस्यादत्त रविमहा प्रार्थयात् सिन्धुराजम्.
The second line, Ravi Mahaha, there's a visarga there. Prardayat Sindhuraj.
युद्धे द्रोणस्य हस्तिस्थिररणभगदत्तेरितं वैष्णवास्त्रं वक्षस्यादत्त चक्रस्थगित रविमहाः प्रार्थयत् सिन्धुराजम्.
Nagastre.
Rajesh ji, Sindhurajam is Jayadratha?
Sindhuraj, yeah, it refers to Jayadratha, yeah. Nagastre karna mukte, kshitim avanamayan kevalam kritta maulim, tatre tatrapi partham, kimiva nahi bhavan Pandavanam, breaking at that Pandavanam akarshit. Nagastre karna mukte kshitimavanamayam kevalam kritamaulim tatre tatrapi partham kimiva nahi bhavan Pandavanam akarshit.
नागास्त्रे कर्णमुक्ते क्षितिमवनमयन् केवलं कृत्तमौलिं तत्रे तत्रापि पार्थं किमिव न हि भवान् पाण्डवानामकर्षीत् नागास्त्रे कर्णमुक्ते क्षितिमवनमयन् केवलं कृत्तमौलिं तत्रे तत्रापि पार्थं किमिव न हि भवान् पाण्डवानामकर्षीत्
नागास्त्रे कर्णमुक्ते क्षितिमवनमयन् केवलं कृत्तमौलिं तत्रे तत्रापि पार्थं किमिव न हि भवान् पाण्डवानाम् अकार्षीत् नागास्त्रे कर्णमुक्ते क्षितिमवनमयन् केवलं कृत्तमौलिं तत्रे तत्रापि पार्थं किमिव न हि भवान् पाण्डवानाम् आकर्षीत्.
That's a nine. Yuddhadau tirthagami sakalu haladaro naimisha kshetramrichan apratyutthayisu takshayi kridata sutam tatpade kalpayitva yajñaknam balvalam parvani paridalayan snata tirtoranante samprapto bhima duryodhanaranamasamam vikshayatah purim te. Talks a little bit about Balarama. So Balarama never participated in the war. So one, because he has supported Duryodhana with all the knowledge and all of that stuff. Plus, the Yadava army was fighting for Kauravas, but he knows Krishna is fighting for the Pandavas, so he cannot be in the opposite side fighting against Krishna. So Balarama says, I don't want to partake in this war, and he goes to this forest called as Naimisharanya. So Naimisha Aranya is forest. So just like how in Tirupati, the mountain is Venkatachalapati, and similarly in Tiruvannamalai, the mountain is Lord Shiva. Naimisharanya, the forest itself is Bhagavan Narayana. The entire forest is Bhagavan Narayana. And even Srimad Bhagavatam, the first stanza starts with Naimishe Nimisha Kshetre, Naimishe Animisha Kshetre. In that Naimisharanyam, Bhagavan doesn't sleep even for a second. Animisha, not even for a second, Bhagavan is sleeping, is always awake. So in the Punya Kshetra of Naimisharanya, where a lot of things were composed, including Vyasa compiling all the Vedas, etc. Anyway, so Balarama goes there, he spends all his time there visiting all those places. When he comes back, he sees that the war is still going on. Bhima Duryodhana, the battle between Bhima and Duryodhana is going on. And Balarama again says, I want nothing to do with this. And then he goes off to Dwaraka. So Balarama doesn't participate in the war at all. That's what this is trying to say. Let me see, I think we have 11 stanzas or 12 in this. 11. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll probably 9, 10, 11. Okay, we'll just do one time. So we'll see if we can finish it off today. Yuddhadau tirthagami, long E, comma, sa khalu haladaro naimisha kshetramrichan. Put an in at the end of that line, kshetramrichan. Next line, if you have a double na in Sanskrit, that becomes a apratyuthai Suta Kshaya Kridata, comma, Sutam Tatpade Kalpayitva. Yuddhadau tirthagami sakhalu haladharo naimisha kshetram richanne apratyuthai suta kshayi kridata sutam tatpade kalpayitva.
युद्धादौ तीर्थगामी सकलु हलधरो नैमिषक्षेत्रमृच्छन् अप्रत्युत्थाय सूदक्षयकृदथ सुतं तत्पदे कल्पयित्वा.
युद्धादौ तीर्थगामी सकलु हलधरो नैमिषक्षेत्रमृच्छन् अप्रत्युत्थायि सूतक्षयकृतथ सुतं तत्पदे कल्पयित्वा.
Yajñagnam. Next word, some books have Valkalam, some books have Balvalam. So if you have the Valkalam, we're just going to replace with Balvalam to be consistent. So Yajñagnam, Balvalam, Parvani Paridalayan, comma, Snata Tirtho Ranante, put a plus Samprapto. So Snata Tirtho Ranante Samprapto, comma, Bhima Duryodhana Ranamashamam Vikshya Yatah, put a F, Yatah Purimte. Yajñagnam Balvalham Parvani Paridhalayan Snata Tirthoranante Samprapto Bhima Duryodhana Ranamashamam Vikshya Yatah Purimte.
यज्ञग्नं बल्वलं पर्वणि परिदलयन् स्नाततीर्थोरणान्ते सम्प्राप्तो भीमदुर्योधनरणमशमं वीक्ष्य यादव पुरीं ते.
यज्ञग्नं बल्वलं पर्वणि परिदलयन् स्नाततीर्थोरणान्ते सम्प्राप्तो दुर्योधनरणमशमं वीक्ष्य यातः पुरीं ते.
That's a 10. The problem is each of these stanzas are like own stories of its. Each of the stanzas is like a long story, right? So it's difficult to explain Mahabharata in a condensed way. संसुप्त द्रौपदीय क्षपणहतधियं द्रौणीमेति अत्वदुक्त्या तन्मुक्तं भ्राममस्त्रं समहृत विजयो मौलिरत्नं च जह्रे उच्छित्यै पाण्डवानां पुनरपि च विशद्युत्तरा गर्भमस्त्रे रक्षन्नङ्गुष्टमात्र किल जठरमगाः चक्रपाणिर्विभो त्वम्. The entire story of Krishna helping out against Ashwathama and then Parikshit being born, right? So first when Ashwathama comes to know of everything that happens, he goes and gets rid of the Pandavas children, thinking they are Pandavas. So he wants to get rid of everybody. Then he realizes that he killed the wrong people. He killed Pandavas. So the Pandavas go capture Ashwathama, but they let him go. They shave his head off and let him go. There's a long story behind that. Then what he does is Ashwathama first sends one Brahmastram, so which he doesn't know how to retract. But Krishna is able to tell Arjuna to send one which will retract both of it. So first time it is actually saved. The second time, when the entire war is over and Krishna is departing to Dwaraka, so Uttara comes running. Uttara is Abhimanyu's wife. Uttara comes, all of them are standing. All the Pandavas are standing. Uttara doesn't go to anybody. She goes to Krishna and says, I feel a heat coming up in my stomach, right? She's pregnant right now. And she says, I feel a heat coming because somebody has aimed a big weapon onto my garbham, very targeted onto my garbham. So at that time, she goes to Krishna. So Krishna knows that, this guy, Ashwathama has put a Brahmastra specifically targeting Uttara's womb because that is the only leftover in the lineage of the Pandavas. So he then goes inside Uttara's womb, takes the form of a thumb, in the size of a thumb, Chakrapani. You hold the Sudarshana Chakra, go around Uttara's womb and protect the child which is coming from Uttara's womb, which is Parikshit later on. So with that, you actually save Parikshit, you save Uttara and thereby Parikshit there. Samsukta Draupadeya Kshapana Hata Dhiyam, Draunimetya Tvaduktya, Tanmuktam Brahmamastram, Samahrita Vijayo Mauliratnam cha Jahre. You then take the Mauliratna of Ashwatthama. Samsupta Draupadeya Kshapana Hatadhiyam Draunimetya Tvaduktya Tanmuktam Brahmamastram Samahrita Vijayo Mauliratnam cha Jahre.
संसुप्तद्रौपदेयक्षपणहतधियं द्रौणिमेत्यत्वदुक्त्या तन्मुक्तं भ्राममस्त्रं समकृतविजयो मौलिरत्नं च चह्रे.
संसुप्तद्रौपदेयक्षपणहतधियं द्रौणिमेत्यत्वदुक्त्या तन्मुक्तं ब्राह्ममस्त्रं समहृतविजयो मौलिरत्नं च जह्वे.
Uchchityai Pandavanam, Punarapi cha Vishat Yuttara Garbhamastre, put a plus, Rakshannangushta Matraha, put a ih to join, Matrah Kila Jataramaghaha. The ish goes away, Visarga, Jataramaghaha, Chakrapanir Vibhotvam. Uchchityai Pandavanam Punarapi cha Vishadyuttara Garbhamastre Rakshannangushtamatra Kila Jataramaghaha Chakrapanir Vibhotvam.
उच्छित्यै पाण्डवानां पुनरपि च विशत्युत्तरा गर्भमस्त्रे रक्षन्नङ्गुष्टमात्रः किल जठरमगाः चक्रपाणिर्विभूत्वम्.
उच्छित्यै पाण्डवानां पुनरपि च विशत्युत्तरा गर्भमस्त्रे रक्षन् अङ्गुष्टमात्रः किल जठरमगाः चक्रपाणिर्विभूत्वम्.
Last answer. धर्मौघं धर्मसूनोरभिधतदखिलं छन्दमृत्युः स भीष्मः त्वां पश्यन् भक्तिभूम्नैव हि सपदि ययौ निष्कलब्रह्मभूयं संज्ञाजाताश्वमेधैस्त्रिभिरतिमहितैर्धर्मजं पूर्णकामं सम्प्राप्तो द्वारकां त्वं पवनपुरपते पाहि मां सर्वरोगात्. So quick touch on Bhishma because these things are like so detailed, right? Like in Bhagavatam, there is two chapters dedicated to just this one line of it, right? Like 70 stanzas. So there's so much that happens where when everything is over, Yudhishthira finally says, I don't know why I fought this war. I don't want the kingdom anymore. So Krishna is like, we spent 18 days, we spent so many days fighting, so many people died, and now you don't want anything. So he says, you have to go talk to Bhishma, who's still waiting his death because he's waiting for Uttarayana to come for two reasons. One is Bhishma is waiting for Uttarayana to come. Second is he wants to die looking at Krishna. So Bhishma, then everybody goes there to where Bhishma is there. Bhishma gives all this knowledge to Yudhishthira about how to govern, about all of that stuff. Then Yudhishthira has more questions to Bhishma, and then Bhishma then narrates the entire Vishnu Sahasranamam with giving the 1,000 names, where he says that the Narayana is nobody other than Devaki Sutaha. The one, the Devaki's son who's standing in front of you is that Narayana. And then he does the Vishnu Sahasranamam, and then he looks at Krishna, and then Bhishma gives up his life. So Bhishma then gets liberated there. And then once all of that is done, then Yudhishthira gets all the kingdom. He does the Ashwamedha Yajna. Krishna helps Yudhishthira complete all of that. And finally, Samprapto Dwarakam Tvam. Finally, you go back to Dwaraka, O Krishna. And then Gururappa, please eradicate all my ailments as well.
Actually, Vishnu Sahasranamam was prompted by Krishna only, right? He prompted Bhishma to talk about.
Yeah, but questions were asked by Yudhishthira. All of this was prompted by Krishna only, but Krishna didn't explicitly ask, nor did.
ஆக்சுவலா பீஷ்மா வந்து கிருஷ்ணன்டையே கேளுன்னு சொல்றத இல்லையே.
Yeah, correct.
He told, I will transfer that knowledge to you. It has to come from your mouth.
Yeah, correct. Yudhishthira asks the questions, and then Krishna says, Bhishma will answer, and Bhishma then narrates that stuff, right? Because the names are already there, because Vishnu Sahasranamathile varade, that these are all names which are sung by the sages. I'm only giving the select 1,000 names of the name, because there are more names than 1,000. Bhishma says, I will only say the select 1,000 names which are sung by the sages, which is why Vishnu Sahasranam is so great. It is a very special 1,000.
இன்னொன்னு கூட கேட்டேன். Sorry for taking the time. Vishnu Sahasranamam is not the 1,000 names of, because there are many repeating, இல்லையா? அப்போ அதுக்கு வந்து ஒரு எக்ஸ்பிளனேஷன் எப்படி கேட்டேன்னா, it is not 1,000 names of one Vishnu, it is 1,000 names of 1,000 Vishnus. It's many Vishnus, probably.
Yeah. So, Dharmaugham, Dharmasunor, breaking at that Ra, Dharmasunor, Abhidhadat Akhilam. So breaking at two places, breaking at the Ra, breaking at the Da. Dharmasunor Abhidhadat Akhilam Chanda Mrityus Sa Bhishmaha. Put a visarga comma. Next line is goes away. Tvam Pashyan Bhakti Bhumnaivahi, comma. Sapadi Yayo Nishkala Brahma Bhuyam. Dharmaugham dharmasunorabhidhatadakilam chandamrityussa bhishmaha tvam pashyan bhakti bhumnaivahi sapadiyayo nishkala brahma bhuyam.
Dharmaugham dharmasunorabhidhatadakilam chandamrityussa bhishmaha tvam pashyan bhakti bhumnaivahi sabadiyayo nishkala brahma bhuyam.
धर्मोकं धर्मसूनोर् अभिदधमखिलं चन्दमृत्युस्स भीमः त्वां भीष्मः त्वां पश्यन् भक्तिभूम्नैव हि सपदि ययौ निष्कलब्रह्मभूयम्.
We'll go one more minute over, we'll finish it off. Sanyajathashva, cannot break that word. Sanyajathashva medhais tribhirati mahitair dharmajam purna kamam. The entire line is together, comma. Samprapto dwarakam tvam, pavanapurapate pahimam sarvaroghat. संह्याजाताश्वमेधैस्त्रिभिरति महितैर्धर्मजं पूर्णकामं सम्प्राप्तो द्वारकां त्वं पवनपुरपते पाहि मां सर्वरोगात्
सम्याज्याथाश्वमेधैर्त्रिभिरतिमहितैर्धर्मजं पूर्णकामं सम्प्राप्तो द्वारकां त्वं पवनपुरपते पाहि मां सर्वरोगात्
संयाज्याथाश्वमेधैस्त्रिभिरतिमहितैर्धर्मजं पूर्णकामं सम्प्राप्तो द्वारकां त्वं पवनपुरपते पाहि मां सर्वरोगात्
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Sandhanandhavabodhatmakamanupamitam kaladeshavadibhyam nirmuktam nityamuktam nigamashatasahasrena nirbhasyamanam aspashtam drishtamatre punarurupurusharthatmakam brahmatattvam tattavadbhati sakshat gurupavanapure hanta bhagyam jananam कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Thank you everyone. Have a wonderful new year.
Thank you.
Safe flight.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Bye.